All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the DSD cohort number 8 presentations. Um, we are super excited that we've been doing this. Oh my goodness, son. We've been doing this for like almost 2 years now. Was the first one of the uh, that I can remember. Rob, you can chime in if you remember exactly when that first one was, or if there were ones before that, back when we were Free Code Camp Dallas. But the first one I remember was back in 2021, I think. Um, but we've had some really good groups. We've had some really awesome team leads and um, projects, and we're just rocking and rolling. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and have Team One um, presenting. Who is Team One's team lead?
I believe that's Suyesh, but Andrew just mentioned he likely wouldn't be present today.
Okay, well, if anyone from Team One wants to kind of be the person presenting, the official
Jesus, can
person,
you
then here you go. Feel free to.
hi everyone. Jesus is my team member. We had a pretty small team right out of gate, and then got smaller on the first day. Uh, uh, Suyesh was our team lead. He has been really busy with his work. He's quite literally putting a man on the moon with his job, and we were
Yep.
joking that like we're just like fetching cat pictures right at the moment. So um, early on we kind of decided like we're going to soldier on, we're going to try our best to learn some new stuff, which was our main goal. And each part of the stack was new to Jesus and I. So React Native on the mobile side, using Expo, Supabase in the back end, and all of the APIs in between. So I'm kind of stalling while Jesus pulls up the Android emulator, which takes up almost his entire CPU on his computer, because he's going to walk through it. Yeah. Jesus, are you able to screen share as well?
No, it says blocked or something. Host disabled participant screen sharing.
Let me see if I can fix that for you real quick.
But yeah, I don't know why. I've
Right
seen memes about the Android simulator, and I know why. It always has a picture of like a laptop burning up or something. Like it just chugs CPU whenever it feels like it, RAM whenever it wants to. Like it's a tied race between Google Chrome and the Android simulator on the RAM side. So it's just it's it's very weird. I'd rather you can use your own phone. It'll give you like a little code once you start that you can just kind of snap a pic and it'll start a server. But once you use the emulators, just sometimes it's a pain. But let's see. This one, can everybody see it? So this is our little app for, I guess, travel. We have a login page. Everything's kind of just bare bones since it's pretty much MVP status or almost there. uh, like Andrew said, we were using Supabase for the backend, so you can log in. Supabase will take care of all the authentication. When you sign up, Supabase will send you an email to activate your account, and then you just log in like normal. So right now, very secure passwords, of course. And as soon as it starts up, it'll grab the user's location. And then depending on the location, it hits an OpenTrip API. And right now I just have two of them, but like I said, Android Simulator likes to chug everything up. So I just have two things coming up right now. I could put more, but it'll just like lag everything, just a turtle mode. You'll be able to like select either all the features, they call them features, depending on the location you want. They'll be sorted dynamically. So right now, all there is for those two options is just foods. But if you were to go like to Austin, maybe it'll pull up something else. Boop. So now it's, cultural. So there'd be a lot of different tabs with different features or locations you can go to. Once you click on it, you'd be able to save it to like your little location, whatever you were looking for. You were planning a trip to Austin, you'd be able to say like, oh, maybe I want to go to the music or the Mexic Art Museum. You'd be able to save it. You'd also be able to check out what it is. You'd have like a description of it and everything. Once you save your trips, you'd have a trip page. We were planning on doing like a chat. We haven't like flushed it out yet. We were thinking of maybe doing like a chat GPT type thing where you could ask like what's the best, I don't know, Mexican restaurant, or what's the best burgers, and it would give you something back for it. What else? I mean, this search can do, it's pretty much Google, the Google auto search, so you can search up anything. You can search up addresses. Maybe you had like a business trip for something. I don't know, but I don't know any Dallas addresses, but you could do an address as well. So it doesn't have to be just like a city. Let's look up, I guess, this Mexic Art Museum. Art. Yeah, see, there it goes. Boop. So then you get things that are close to it. So now you have obviously the museum, and then you'd have some kind of, I guess this is a wall painting of some sort. Let's see, I think that's pretty much it. Then you'd have your settings tab. We don't have any settings yet, but pretty much the functionality is there. We just have to be able to save them and look them up. So everything can be searched. And that's pretty much where we're at right now. Just
Yeah,
for a second there was touch and go.
The main goal for this was to, like you said, like if you have a business trip, being able to search for interesting things in the area and kind of in that trip's location. Like if you search for Austin, you can click on Austin and then you have all of the events or restaurants or hotels that you want to check out. So you kind of, it's almost kind of like a wallet for places to go, things to see. And that way, if you ever come back to that place, you remember, oh, what was the name of that restaurant that I really liked, or things like that. So stretch goals for this would obviously be kind of styling, bringing that back up, obviously getting the trip saving functionality up and running, and then also incorporating some sort of call to a flight tracker API. That was another stretch goal of ours, so that again, if you were like planning a trip to Paris, you could not just look up the cool things to do and places to eat, but also have a in that same search looking for flights and whatnot. So yeah.
So I guess I just updated it. So now there's more stuff that comes up. Now there's 30 things that come back. So now there's lots of like accommodations would be your hotels, architecture. So far it's running smoothly. I think it unpacks a bunch of stuff. So if anybody else like messes with Android Simulator, just start up the emulator and just let it run there for like 30 minutes. I think it does a bunch of unpacking because you can see the file size grow after like 10 minutes. So I think that's why at the beginning it's like super, super slow. So if you're messing with it, just kind of let it be for a while it unpacks whatever it's unpacking.
Yeah. And like I said, like all of the layout, all of the tech stack that we did was new to Jesus and I. So even though the functionality of it's kind of bare bones right now, like all of the different components and scrolling mechanisms, and obviously using API calls to trigger other API calls, that was something I think that we gained a lot of knowledge out of, which is pretty cool. So yeah, that's where we're at. That trip was at.
Scott, unless you had a few questions, like I wanted to ask some stuff. I don't want to like budget on you, you though.
Oh yeah, no worries.
Okay.
Maybe if we can limit the questions to just a couple. We like to keep the presentations moving fairly quickly.
For sure.
But
Oh yeah. Did anybody else have any questions? My bad. Okay. All right. I'll just take my shot then. Well, I just want to say, like, with the like the minimal team size that you guys were working with, like what you've produced so far, I think is phenomenal. And everything that you've displayed, like this has been like a really solid presentation. I love the outlook of it. And like my question for me would be, like if you were going to like pitch this, I guess, like in an interview, what would be like the highest selling point? I know you mentioned just now that, like, you had to adapt to new technologies that you've never used before, which is like huge, I think. But other than that, like, is there anything else that is like a huge selling point for this project in your opinion?
So, in an interview setting, I would probably steer this project selling point as like the experience. I feel like navigating the challenges of new tech stack and like adapting, having the resources to learn new languages or to learn new stacks or introduce new npms and whatnot. I would kind of emphasize that a little bit, and then also the collaborative team aspect of that, about kind of pivoting when curveballs get thrown at you. I think those would be some of the important things that I would, at least in a job interview setting, if we're focusing primarily on the stack or the tech aspect of that, I would talk a lot about how many APIs are integrated and how they interact with each other, and specifically like using a very specific part of a response that becomes the primary part of the call to a different API, and making sure that you're labeling things accordingly so that everything's kind of shaking hands with each other. I think that was a big learning point from the technical side. And then also, like make it work and then make it pretty, like that type of, I hear that a lot. So I feel like we found a middle ground of that. Like we made it work, and then we tried to level up a little bit with some of the styling. And obviously there's still more to put into that long term. But those are the two main technical things that I would talk about in an interview there.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, it looks phenomenal, and thank you for covering those points, especially like I don't know if this is the right term, but like the API interflexibility, where you're like working together with multiple ones, and then having like APIs call other APIs. I think you guys did a great job with that. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, Andrew.
Thank you.
And did anybody else have any other questions? I don't want to steal anybody's thunder here.
I have one.
Go for it.
I wanted to ask, what was your overall design process look like before coding?
Before coding. So, hey, Suze, I can let you jump in here for a second, but I'll say we started with a lot of
Spiking.
Spiking was the term.
Yeah.
So, we, like I said, we went into this like learning new things and learning, like, taking what we know and applying it to similar but new things. So the very first thing we did was like build a counter app with React Native, just so that we learned the very basics of what Native and Expo have to offer. And then exactly what I said, like make it work. And then he said make it pretty. So he's like, here's a couple different like upload a custom font, or use this node package for like buttons and stuff like that. So then after that, we made another app again with Expo and Native, which was a simple map. And that was just so that we have never made an app where you need to ask the user for permission to use your location and then display that location. And then we had to like put a custom marker and move the marker around. So we had to learn how to geocode and then reverse geocode. And all of those skills are happening underneath the hood for specifically for the API calls of searching for things, based off of location, of course. So
yeah, everything kind of built up on each other. It's called React Native, but it's a little more tricky than React.
So sorry, I just realized I don't feel like I fully answered your question. So that was a lot of the preparation in terms of the technical side of things, and then in terms of the design, we had a Figma sheet of things of like other travel apps that have been made before, so we can kind of get some inspiration about how we want to have everything laid out. And I think you can see like the main meat of that was this page right here, which is like the search bar that gives you the main thing, and then a scrolling I forget the term, flat list or something like that, where you can scroll
Yeah, it's
over
flat list.
horizontally and then display the different categories. I think once we knew how we wanted to lay out that information, then it was, again, just Suyesh would, all right, read this article, read these docs. No, don't use that one, use this one, that kind of stuff. So it was just constantly kind of interchanging the different components to make it function the way you see it now.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you, Parag. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Cool. Well, thanks, everyone.
All right, I think we're ready to move on then. You good, Edwin?
Yeah, good to go. Oh, sorry.
Awesome.
Wait, did you want me to announce it? I wasn't sure what you mentioned earlier.
No worries, man. You can take it.
Okay, got it. All right. So next up we have Team Event Pro. Are you guys ready to present? I think that's Ramiro's team.
I think as ready as we'll probably ever be.
Okay,
So.
sounds good. Oh, hey, Andy, what's up? All right.
Hey, how's it going, Edwin?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Can you guys see the app?
Yep.
Okay, go for it, Andy. Or sorry, Michael.
Right. Alrighty then. So then essentially we decided to go with we went with an event planning, event organizing website in which we have the basic front page, as well as users can essentially create events and register for events and all of that. In terms of the learning, in terms of what we learned and what we expected, for the most part, the experience to collaborate with other people, most of us were comfortable with developing something by ourselves, but the actual experience to work with others throughout the process was definitely a new experience. Alongside that, some of the technologies that we used throughout the process were new to some of us, and so taking the time to working through that, working through the new technologies, at least relative to us, was definitely a learning experience overall, especially with like, since we used this was some of the things that we used, but some of the things that we used were new to us, and allowed us to essentially overcome challenges that we may have had with these new technologies, and also allowed us to experiment with some of them, such as experiment with emerging tech tools such as Tailwind CSS. And
Was there more?
Sorry, you go.
Okay,
No, I was
sorry.
I was gonna pass it over to you.
I forgot what our order was. So kind of an overview of how we put this all together. First, we started with the text selection, which we'll go into a little detail next, and then putting together an initial markup. And Scott actually put together a couple images, and that's really what we used to build off of as we kind of kept developing and modifying the design. Then from there, we started looking at the MVP features. I know the initial list was very long and we kind of had to cut down, figure out what we wanted, what was feasible. And we got most of them, or most of the things are functioning on the back end, but the front end still needs to catch up a little bit on things. And then from there, one of the key things actually that helped us along with all this was using the GitHub Actions and development pipelines. I think I mentioned that last time when we had our check-in, but that was what we put together from our very first step. We just deployed a blank app just to show that it could get on the site. And then from there, within the workflow, we could run tests before we actually pushed out to deployment. So we knew that everything was functioning before we broke the functioning site or the real site. And that was one of the biggest things that really helped us along the way, so that we didn't get too far down the road with things being broken. And let's see what else. And then from there, once we had that set up, it was really just jumping into it, kind of putting together the structural design and then just building out those features for MVP. And that's how we got to this. And then Andy's going to talk more about the back end and our tech stack also.
Yep, so I'll get into the tech stack. For the front end, we went with Next.js, React, TypeScript, and Tailwind, and it is hosted on Vercel. For the back end, we went with Node, Express, TypeScript, and MongoDB. I'll kind of go into some reasons that we picked the tech here in just a second. For CI/CD, we went with GitHub Actions, and for project management, we used Jira for ticketing and Google Jamboard for data visualization. Yeah. Some of our motivation for decoupled architecture, we wanted to separately master the front end and back end. And I think for like someone like myself, for example, I've been developing by myself for a couple of years now, but I haven't really had the opportunity to just work on like one aspect of the project or of a project. So for me, one of the biggest things I learned and one of my greatest experiences with this project was being able to just kind of work on like one side. So like Dalton and I worked on the back end. Scott, Michael, and Danny worked on the front end. And, if we were having some issues, we would jump on a call, like a Zoom call, and, kind of try to figure out with each other what the issue was. But once we were actually building, it was kind of nice just to like be able to focus on like a single aspect. Was pretty cool. The tech choice rationale. So we were debating between MongoDB and Postgres for the database. We ended up going with MongoDB because it provided data flexibility. We made some, not consistent, but we made a few changes to our schema along the way to kind of adapt to some challenges that we were facing. So MongoDB was an excellent choice. I think it ended up being a pretty nice choice for us. And we, like I mentioned, we did consider Postgres due to its robustness. Kind of towards the end of the project, so within the last week, we transitioned from sessions to the JWT tokens. We initially were using Express sessions, but we were having some issues with login. So the session was being sent, but we were having trouble, I guess, like storing it. So some things that I learned from the transition from sessions to JWT was JWT provides scalability, so it's stateless. It does allow for horizontal scaling, flexibility, so it can be used across multiple domains and platforms, self-contained, so the tokens carry all necessary information, and reduce server load, so there was no need to store session data. And I think now I will jump in and I'll share my screen. Let's see. Can everyone see the Jamboard?
It's not visible on my end.
Not visible. Is that better?
Yeah.
Cool. So this is kind of an idea of our backend data flow. We have the client, we have the backend, and as the request comes in, it's initially handled by the server.ts file. It's sent to the different routes, from there to the controller, and then to the database if needed. And then we responded with a JSON response back to the client. We did go with client-side rendering. It's the first time I've ever worked with client-side rendering. I typically rendered server-side, so it was kind of a cool experience to get to learn that. That was kind of nice. And then here's just kind of the API, the API repo that we built. So we've got the server file right here. We did go through every couple of days and just do like a code cleanup. So when we're trying to get things to work, we're trying to get it to work, And when it finally worked, sometimes there were notes or older files or older pieces of code left in the file. So every couple of days or so, we'd kind of go through and clean it up. So we've got our different routes right here. We've got our models, we've got our middleware, and we've got our controllers here in a separate file as well to handle some of the logic there. So. And I guess we'll go back to Danny for the walkthrough, the demo.
Okay, so Scott, do you want to actually walk through our landing page? I'll just kind of scroll along.
So like she said, we put some stuff up on Figma, checked out some different color schemes, voted on what colors we liked, and just threw some ideas out there, and then went back and tried to put that together about as close as possible, but going through and finding royalty-free images. We have our navbar at the top. We have our kind of a parallax scrolling there with a carousel of options. And then we have these event cards that we see right here as a single reusable component. And we just pass through the different arrays of objects. So we have like our sports object, our concerts object, so on and so forth. So we're getting the same thing. And the purpose of that is to give a preview of what the event is, and then a user would go through and click on one that they want to see. And if we had just a little bit more time, we were going to connect this up to the details page for each of those. So each of them would be their own separate link taking to all the information that we had stored on the database for that event. And then under this section, we had a customer reviews section. Just came up with a couple of hypothetical clients that would have used our application and given some feedback on that. And then just scrolling through, just talking a little bit more about what the organization is, or in this case, the application, kind of treating it like we're actually selling a product. And so this is somewhere in between a landing page and a home page. It kind of has the aesthetic of what we would, consider a landing page, where near the top there was a call to action button and a placeholder for a search. But then also some basic usable things like clicking on the events, even if you're not signed in, so that you wouldn't have to sign in and have an account. You could hypothetically go through and search for an event, or maybe start hosting events or finding an event, something like that, with a guest account if you wanted to, hypothetically. And then if we want to scroll kind of back down to the bottom there. And then we're going to add in a footer placeholder. We have kind of just a placeholder right now, but that was on the list of things to do. I will say this: this by far has been the most planning group or team that I've been part of. We spent the first couple of weeks planning things out before we actually got into some real coding, which was definitely a huge plus, because we didn't have, there was a bunch that we didn't have to like go back and redo or like trip back over ourselves and be like, oh, well, we did this, but we really need to do that. And so it was very helpful, but at the same time, it's kind of tricky whenever, you know, we only have 4 or 5 weeks. If we would have had like another week or two, then we would have gotten a couple more of our functionality things in like we wanted. But I think we pretty much reached MVP. So it was a lot of fun to work with. Like Michael said, a couple of new technologies. I've never really worked with a very much back end stuff us outside of work. And then Next.js, I wasn't used to like the routing system for that, the navigation. And I think Danielle did a great job of setting that up. So Danielle, if you want to continue on.
Sure. So I guess just kind of carrying on from there, some of the additional pieces we added in. And there was a lot of playing with a different style of routing I wasn't used to. So that was definitely a learning experience for me. But some of this other stuff on here. So to narrow down some of the events, we also have pages that are specific to the different sections. So sports and hobbies, entertainment, social activities. And like Scott said, the idea was that you'd click on this, you could see the event, and then from there you would be able to register. That was one of the ones that fell through the cracks, unfortunately. It was almost there. And then if you were to log in or have an account, I'll just do a demo one real quick. Once you logged in, it would take you to your profile page. The idea here was to show the different, well, your profile information, the different events you've created, and then different events that you were attending, kind of a landing spot for that. And from here, you would also be able to create your event with all the different information, event name, start, you can pick the time and the dates, price, the event type, so it would fit into one of those categories up here and display out. And then decide if you're going to have a virtual or in-person event and add those details. The Zoom bar is in the way. And then if you want to upload an image, you could do that, and that would all get put into the database and then would populate out on these different screens. I think that's it. I know there was a few more pieces that we wanted in here, but didn't quite get to wrap all of them up as we wanted to, but I think we did pretty good for starting out with new technologies.
Yeah, definitely. I just got to say, like, the MVP looks phenomenal. And, you know, especially with all the planning that was like put into this, like Scott mentioned, I think, you know, you guys had like a really good start with this, and especially adapting to the new technologies that Michael was mentioning. Sorry, I put like a question down here, but I think oh yeah, for the pipelines that you guys were mentioning, like, was any of that automated? Because I think like Andy mentioned, like, was it CI/CD that you guys were using, or was it like more of a manual process?
So it was automated through, I'm still kind of learning what we did actually, but it was automated through the GitHub actions. So you set up the script, and then every time we pushed, or every time we did a pull request, it would run the test, check the build. If everything passed, then you could merge that into the main branch for deployment. Okay. And if it didn't, you'd see what the errors were to fix before you merged.
And do you guys use a YAML file to establish that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that's kind of similar to like some of the, like, was it Kubernetes or was it Docker where you're using like YAML files as well? I think I was like asking about that last time, but okay, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's related to the Docker question you had before.
Yeah,
I don't remember the details though, but I remember you asking that before.
I don't remember either, so that's all good. Okay, well, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Like, did anybody else have any questions about Team Event Pros MVP?
And Edwin, if I can just say one last thing real quick. Yeah, so Ram was our team lead. He was super hands-on, helped us out a lot if we ever had trouble, helped us kind of get everything set up. So big thanks there. And this was truly a team effort. So we started with the team lead plus 5, we ended with 5. So it was, everyone was contributing, everyone was, you know, a part of what we're seeing here. So I feel extremely fortunate, and I would assume the rest of the team does as well. So just wanted to thank everyone for that.
Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. It's really great to hear you guys like stood solid as a team all throughout the process. So yeah, just congratulations on making it through as a full group. Right. And any other questions from anybody else? Okay, and with that, we will move to the next group then. Thank you guys again for presenting. I believe Team 3 wanted to go last. Is that still the consensus from you guys?
Eugen, should we wait for Carson or should we go?
We haven't heard anything from Carson, so I don't even know if he's going to come at the end either.
Oh,
Let's go then.
Okay.
got it.
So Eugen will share the screen and I will cover the initial introduction and then I will hand over to Eugen.
Hold on, I'm having some technical difficulties.
While you're handling that, I can go ahead and share and then you can, oh, you got it. All right, next screen, please. All right, so we are team 3. We was team of 4 and most of them are not here today because of different reasons, such as Ryan is class, Rochelle has something, and then Carson is also stuck at some place. So Eugene and myself are here. Great teamwork. We started with great collaboration, which we will like cover in the next slide. So I wanted to capture this particular slide, which is when everybody sign up, they share some of the reason why they are joining this cohort. So everybody had some great aspiration. They wanted to solve the problems. They wanted to gain the team experience and the use of working in a community. So we felt like we was able to provide that in team 3. So next slide, please. And then one other thing that we did in this this team is we shared all our updates weekly on LinkedIn and other platform. We wanted to create a buzz. And so sometime Eugene will post something or Carson will post something and I will post something and then everybody would kind of share through their network. So we try to create the buzz. And then also we had an agreement that at least once a day we will check the Discord message so we know that we are talking. And then if there is an important update that we can share. And then we had GitHub and Jira that we was trying to update more frequently. So those are the things that we did. And then there are a couple of some nice things Eugene will share how we plan, design, and code this project. So with that, over to you, Eugene.
So for most of us, Carson and I were more like back-end developers, while Rachel was front-end, and Ryan was more still like learning how to code and like program. He's still in school, so he's still in that learning process right now. So we decided to do the travel planning application, and then we planned it all out on a Miro board, and we used Jira to separate down the tasks for our project. We decided to create the application flow, the pseudocode, the architecture, the wireframe all on Miro. And this is basically an example. We also drew a database entity diagram too. And our infrastructure was using AWS as our like deployment tool. And then we had a React and Tailwind CSS front end. And then we had a Django backend, a Django REST backend. So we decided to completely separate our front end and back end and then create them into basically two different entities and then connect them with APIs. And then on top of that, we also decided to use OAuth for our login. And then we also used two different APIs, one to get the flight data. We used Skyscanner, I believe. And then we also did another API to find like attractions based on location. And I believe we used OpenTrip Day API. Yeah, so X-Stack. I also explain more about our deployment. We decided to use an 3-tier AWS infrastructure that uses 2 availability zones. So it's more secure that way. And then we decided to deploy the database, which is a Postgres RDS database, in the way back in a private subnet. And then in the mid subnet, that's when we deployed our application through containers. And then we also used Kubernetes to orchestrate it. And then in front of that was the application load balancer, which has access to the public internet. And then on top of all of that, we used CloudFront and then and a firewall to keep everything secure. I don't know what this slide is for.
Oh, I can share some quickly.
Okay.
With every project, we all face the problem, right? So I wanted to capture some of those. We started with a plan, and then in the middle we find that one team member was really busy with the study, or some other challenges. So plan didn't work as we were expected to work, but then this team was able to realign almost like every week with some of the changes that we was encountering. And then there was a situation just last week where some of the front-end pieces that we thought are done or completed, but then we have to almost redo everything Sunday night, right? Saturday night, Eugene. Eugene is like spent like 12 hours straight fixing some of the thing, and other team members as well. So it was an exciting change, turnaround. And then also from the technology perspective, where the API that we was using, it was only 50 calls, and we didn't expect that it will we will go over so quick. So there was a lot of challenges, and then the way team regroup or responded to those challenges, I think it's a experience and a learning that well worth.
I don't know. It was so basically half of our group left, and our front-end developer told us they were like on track, but then they actually weren't. And then the last like 3 days, they just kind of left. So we both back-end developers decided to learn how to do front-end and had to do the entire front-end in about 3 days without knowing how to do it. So that was really rough, because I'm a Python-based user, and then Carthen is also a Python-based user, but our front-end base was already in JavaScript with React. So we're just like, oh, we gotta learn React and JavaScript now in 3 days. So that was not fun.
But you guys did it.
I mean, we did it, but it was not fun. So these are example screenshots of our website that we got to run. We have a Google login page that you need to log into to access the website. And this is the home page right here. You
We
can
have a live
create
demo
travel
too.
plan. Yeah, we
Yes.
also have a live demo, but yeah, this is basically the website and screenshots. Since we're gonna demo, I'm just gonna skip, kind of like go past it real fast.
I have a hard learning in a lot of, I mean, my professional life, I have a very hard learning that demo time, live demo does not work. So I wanted always have a backup with the screenshots.
So I'm already logged in, so I'm going to sign out. And essentially, if you sign out, it makes you sign in. And then here we have our Google. We sign in and you get access once you use our Google Gmail to log in. And then we can create a new travel application or travel plan. It takes you to the search page. And here you create a title for whatever plan you want to do. We'll say,
DSD,
Oh,
DSD team out,
okay.
DSD cohort
DSD
hiking.
demo. So you have to do airports for your input. So we can DFW. We're heading to JFK Airport. You pick your departure dates. So here, and then say like here, and then you search it. It'll bring up this thing while it's basically calling the API and fetching all that data and then sending it back. And then this is our airlines. You get the date from and to airports, which airline it is, and then you can select it. These are all nonstop flights too, because we decided getting back like 1,500 responses was not it. So we just completely made it nonstop flights only. So this is your return flight. You can just select whichever one. And then here it'll take whatever cities that are around like your destination airport that you chose. So you can choose however many you want to add to your plan. And once you click done, this is basically your overview of the plan you created. And then here you can go back to the main menu, you can create another one, or you can view your plans that you already created. And then if we go here, this is like the plans we already created, and you can just click them to see like what you planned before. And yeah, that's our application.
So there was a message that Eugene sent that the functionality is done and it look ugly. And said, I love it. Like I love functionality.
I mean,
But
we
it's
have to
lovely.
learn JavaScript and React in 3 days. This is the best you're getting out of us.
All right, well, I gotta say, yeah, like, regardless of that, it looks great, and just congratulations on pulling through with that like monumental challenge after having like some of your members drop out. I'm sorry to hear that happened, but like phenomenal job all the way through. I have to put in my 2 pieces here because I think like Rachel was presenting on your guys' behalf last time, and she mentioned Docker. I heard that, I got really excited, so I mentioned Kubernetes, and I'm sorry if it caused a spook within your team because of that. Because like right now that's like some of the tech stack that I'm studying, so I was just like keen on learning it. If you guys were also like using that for your project, turns out you are, because I heard Kubernetes earlier. And on that note, I just want to ask, like, were you guys using it for like the scaling potential, like horizontal, vertical, or was it for a different purpose?
So because we decided to containerize each aspect of our application and we separated everything out. And so I come from a DevOps background, so I kind of just wanted to use all the fancy tools and CI/CD and all that stuff. And so that's when we Dockerized both the front end and Dockerized the back end, both completely separate. So you can interchange like the front end and the back end and connect it to like different ones if you really wanted to. And then we also decided to toss the database in like its own separate entity too. So that's why we needed the orchestration from Kubernetes for the most part, just to make sure everything is working properly. And then the scaling wasn't really an issue because there was an auto scaling group on the containers. So it's like, I wasn't really doing, it was mostly just for managing.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's amazing to hear. When you say like the auto scaling was already there, it's like, if the app gets shut down, like were you also using like pods to make sure that you have like backups that are duplicated in the event of like a downtime?
So that's why we have a 3-tiered two availability zone infrastructure. So if one goes down, then the other side is already there. So you'll never have any any downtime.
Okay.
And then
Oh, sorry.
when
Go
that infrastructure goes down on that side, the auto scaling group will bring it back up when it's still displaying with the other side. So you'll
Okay.
never necessarily have any downtime.
All right. I gotta ask, did you guys happen to have any like notes on this whole process? Because
I think that's more of a, you gotta learn cloud stuff first.
okay. I mentioned that because I'm also about to enter a DevSecOps role. So like I've been studying Kubernetes and Docker religiously, but yeah, I'm just really excited for like the potential of you guys. Like MVP It looks phenomenal. Sorry if I went off the rails with that, but thank you so much for explaining. And in addition to that, like just the adaptability that you guys had with picking up that front end demand within the span of 3 days, I think that's just phenomenal adaptability potential. You know, you could smack that down on a resume and you'll be like highly in demand because of that.
I just got hired, so.
Oh wow, congratulations. All right, nice. And then Vinod, you mentioned earlier, like, you know, you were promoting like constant buzz generation and like frequent updates. I guess for like promoting constant team collaboration. I think that's like an ingenious idea, and it looks like it was working out pretty well for the most part. So yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I've definitely taken notes on that in case like, you know, I have to like lead a team someday. So
Yeah, you can see the samples on my profile or Eugene LinkedIn profile, and you will see that how he was doing all that.
yeah, I did see your feed because I think like I do
Oh, okay.
follow you. Yeah,
Okay.
so that was pretty spot on. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. But yeah, other than that, sorry, I took like hogged up all the time. Did anybody have any other questions for this group's project?
I see one question in the chat. Did you play with scale to 0 or reduce costs or anything? So what we had planned, because we didn't actually get to the point of completely deploying it, we got like 70% there because we kind of had to learn front end in 3 days and just kind of make sure it worked before we completely deployed it. So I did set up CloudWatch to basically watch everything. And then I wasn't really caring about the cost too much at the moment because I have AWS credit. So if it like went over cost, it would just eat the credit.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much for elaborating on that, Eugene. Did you guys have any other questions before we move to group 4 for group 3? Going once, going twice. Okay. Group 3, thank you guys so much for presenting. It was phenomenal MVP that you guys had, especially with all the circumstances that you had to endure. So now moving on, is Group 4 ready to present their MVP?
Group 4 is ready to present their MVP.
Okay, awesome. All right.
Cool. So my name is Trey Clark, and I'm going to be kicking us off. Today, we're going to present to you Convi, a next level event management system. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about our team, our contributions to the project, our mission statement, sort of what we're going for there, the technologies we use within the full stack in terms of just like front end, back end, authentication, and database things. Sort of the breakdown or our path to integration. Where did we start? Where did we end? And what does that process look like? Our user stories, what are we trying to achieve there? A quick overview of the application, some of the supplemental materials that we used, a live demo, and sort of our plans for future development. So a little bit about us, our team lead, Mike Mobin, Mike B down there. He was our troubleshooting guru. He helped a whole bunch with whenever we had any sort of questions. He was always like, boom, boom, boom. Super thankful for that. He also helped us with deployment. We literally had an application deployed like the second day. So we've just been merging into that, making sure nothing breaks. And he also helped manage everything in our pipeline on GitHub. We have Jonathan Romaine. He helped with the event dashboard, some UI things there. He helped some of the data parsing on the front end, as well as making sure that we had all the correct front end dependencies. We have Michelle Song. She is not here tonight. She has an emergency, so if you all could keep her in your thoughts, that'd be awesome. She helped set up our TRPC, which is sort of our, we'll get to that when we talk about the technologies, help set up our Express server and various UI components. And then there's myself. I drew up some of the SQL schemas and the database structure. We use an ORM SQLize to help get data through that. And I also did the Auth0 integration for the users. And then we have AJ. He helped us with all of our user stories. He also did most of, if not all of the Figma mockups. So all the design was his stuff. We just put it to code. And he also helped with the event dashboard from there. So our mission statement is to empower users with seamless event experiences through innovative planning, coordination, and engagement. And so as we were doing this process, that's sort of like what we're leaning towards, making sure that no matter what we're doing, that's sort of our end goal. But why did we choose an event management app? So you can see by this wonderful table right here, a majority of us, thanks to the democratic process, chose the event management system. We just weren't so keen with the social networking platform for our particular planning. And so it was split between event management system and travel planning tool, and event management system won that. So a little bit about Conv. So Conventus is Latin for meeting. So we wanted a little bit more of a minimalized spin to it. So we just chose Conv. Again, so our mission is to empower users to find groups to connect with by taking away the hardest part, knowing where those groups are, right? So if you use our application, you don't have to like know little niche groups or anything. You're able to search through that or even create your own group and spread that through your social media. And then the desired outcome would be that Conv is used as a platform to help users experience and learn new things by meeting up with like-minded individuals. For example, us, right, DSD. If I'm new to coding, I need a group to talk to. We can use our platform to find local events, things like that. Hey, AJ, I don't think you're coming through.
Yeah, we can't hear you. Sorry, AJ.
Yes, sounds like a robotic filter.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Hey everybody, sorry. Thanks, Trey. As Trey was mentioning though, we embarked on an exciting journey with Conv, leveraging an innovative stack to bring our event management web app to life. Let's dive into some of the key technologies that powered it. So in the front end, we use the T3 stack, which unites TypeScript, TRPC, and Tailwind alongside React. This choice empowered us with a potent combination of efficiency and flexibility. TypeScript ensures robust code by catching potential errors early in development, and TRPC simplifies communication between client and server, enhancing our productivity. And with Tailwind, crafting appealing user interfaces became streamlined, enabling us to shape Conv's visual experience. On the back end, we harnessed Node.js and Express to construct the foundational infrastructure. These technologies foster a reliable and performant server environment. SQL, SQL aided by SQLize, provided a solid foundation for our database management needs. And the integration of TRPC server facilitated seamless interaction between front end and back end, enabling efficient data flow. And to ensure secure access and smooth collaboration, we relied on Auth0 for authentication. Jira and GitHub were instrumental in managing our project's progress, while Excalidraw and Figma helped us visualize user stories and wireframes, mockups, facilitating a coherent design process. Next slide, please. And path to integration. So when we started exploring technologies that would power Conv, we were figuring out the path to follow to bring all these elements together. For the stack, our journey began by assessing our strengths and aligning them with suitable stack. So this allowed us to capitalize on our expertise and cultivate new skills while building the app. With an outline, the stack in place, we crafted these user stories and visualized the app's flow. This involved collaborative brainstorming sessions using Tools like I mentioned, Excalidraw. We worked a lot in a Google Doc, ensuring just a clear roadmap for our team. For the backend, installing dependencies, setting up the application's hosting, creating and populating the database. This marked the stage where our backend took shape. We utilized Node.js, Express, SQL, and SQLize to establish that sturdy foundation. Leveraging our backend blueprint, we moved on to front-end development. From initial client markup adjustments to coding wireframes, we transformed design concepts into tangible user experiences. With both front-end and back-end components ready, we fortified secure connections between them. This was a pivotal step to ensure smooth data transfer and communication. Finally, a meticulous development allowed us to build the refined Convi experience. I'll pass it now over to our teammate, Jonathan, who will talk a little bit about our user story development and how it shaped the approach.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Think so? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, user stories. Okay, so as the event user or event organizer, I want to easily set up new events for providing event details, defining registration options, and customizing the event's branding so that I can quickly launch and promote the event to potential attendees. Let's see. As the event organizer, I would like to efficiently manage attendee registration by capturing necessary information, processing payments, and generating electronic tickets so that I can ensure a smooth registration process, provide attendees with a seamless experience. As the event organizer, I would like to efficiently coordinate with speakers by inviting them, managing their session details, communicating logistics, requirements, and so that I can ensure a successful, well-organized program. As the event organizer, I would want to easily create and manage an event agenda by scheduling sessions, assigning presentation slots, and updating the agenda in real time so that attendees can view and plan their personalized event experience. Next slide, please. And then this is the application screenshot. So these were things that our team came up with Excalidraw and some of the other things. Trey, you actually came up with the About Convi section. That looks pretty cool. And then the contact form at the bottom. So that's what we have. Next.
Cool. Thanks, guys. So now we're going to jump into a demo, crossing fingers. Everything works here. Okay, cool. So we go to our deployment, which is on Netlify. So up the top, we have a toolbar that reacts to whether the user is logged in or not. Just to get over some of this filler stuff. Again, we have our About Us page here. We have a footer at the bottom. Some features that we plan to have, and then a contact page that validates all of the fields there. So when you get here, you're presented with an image and some text. When you click Join Convi, it takes you to our Auth0 dashboard here. So I am going to move that over here. I'm going to grab our information really quick so I can log in. Cool. So once the user logs in or signs up, once the user logs in or signs up, it takes you back to the home page. But as you can see up here, we have our dashboard to log out, or we can go to our dashboard. So once we click that, it directs you to your dashboard. At this point, our name in the database is organizer. And so you can see your upcoming events. So we can see all of the events that are associated with this user right here. Once you go over those, actually, we'll get to that in a second. We have the create new event, which opens up a modal. And on the modal, we have different fields that you can input in. And then we're still missing this functionality. We do have the object that it creates, but we just have to put it inside of our database and ensure that it's connected to the user that it did, but there's all the fields there. And then after that, let's say we click on Tech Conference. Once this data is parsed out, we'll be able to see all of the descriptions and things like that in here, and then integrate email notifications based on time as well. And then you can generate a link to said event to send to your attendees or share on social media. And then once you're finished with that, you click log out and takes you back to the home screen, and then your user is no longer logged in. So that's just a pretty quick overview on how the Convi app works to help you manage events and things along those lines. So moving on to our plans for future development. Jonathan, I think that's you again.
Yeah, so plans for future development. So allow speakers to upload presentation materials, allow hosts to assign presentation slots, update agenda in real time, and have control over attendees, incorporate a digital ticket sign-in, add an auto email reminders for attendees, and process ticket payments at varying tiers.
Yeah, I do want to add that our original scope was massive, but Mike told us to reel it in a lot. I think we were trying to work on like 5 different things, and he was like, "No, we have to do one." So this is just a list of the things that we were trying to do in this short time period. But that is Convi. Thank you for listening to our presentation. Hopefully it was beneficial. Hopefully you learned something there. But again, thank you all.
Yeah, thank you so much, Trey. I gotta say, like, the presentation was phenomenal. Like, the breakdown, I think you guys did a very good job of organizing it. I just had a few questions on my end. You said you guys deployed the app on the second day? If I'm not mistaken.
I might have exaggerated that. Mike, was it the second day or within the first week at least?
It was the moment like we ran, I think, yeah, it was not the second day. I think it was by the end of the first week, because we ran the create, like when we got the Next.js template and the Node.js templates done, they were like, we deployed the template applications.
Okay, that's still really like quick and very impressive. And I think like one of the slides, I think, was it Trey that you covered, is like the path to integration, or was that Jonathan?
AJ, I believe.
Oh, AJ, sorry, my bad. For the path of integration, like how did that coincide with the speed of your app development? Were you guys doing like both at the same time at like a rapid pace, or were they kind of like in separate realms?
I mean, sorry, can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. For path of integration, I mean, for the team, we were just all deciding, like, okay, like how do we design first, and then do we dive into the code? Because like Trey and Mike were saying, like it was pretty quick. Like I just want to say I'm so grateful to work with these team members, because I learned so much from them, and the experience level, I had a lot to soak up, but I was leaning on them on like, okay, what's the best way to execute a lot of this? Coming to the table with organization and design of, okay, I just learned from this experience that helps a lot with making it quicker. But I don't know, Trey, do you want to say anything about the path to integration?
Yeah, like we essentially started on 2 different sides of the pole, right? But then as we were working, we were slowly getting together to this like point. And then from there, we could just sort of like commit and work on things together, which I think is a lot easier. And it also took a lot of like trust in the team, because like as for instance, as I was working on something, AJ was working on something, but I had no idea what he was working on. And so I had to trust him to do it. And then lo and behold, like that connection happened. It's like, okay, so the things that we did that we didn't even know we were doing like happened. And I think that was pretty cool.
Okay. Yeah, and like thank you for mentioning that, Trey. Like based off of what you just were talking about, like just working on code like simultaneously, maybe without knowing like what some of your partners are doing. Did you guys have any sort of tactics to avoid like merge conflicts, for example? If those occurred?
Merge often and small commits.
Okay, that's the exact same thing I heard. I just want to double check. Okay, perfect. So I got to pitch something here really quickly. I'm actually like taking charge of like a volunteer role for one of the networking groups I'm part of. This app that you guys are creating is like almost like 100% replica of an MVP that I'm trying to develop right now, especially with like the automated emails and stuff like that, that, you know, was part of like the final area of the presentation. So, do you guys like, I know you have plans, you know, for like future development, but is it like set in stone? Because I'd love to get like in touch with you guys, maybe for like a collaboration if you're open
Join the
to
team,
it.
man.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that'd be amazing. Yeah. Sorry, I don't want to like hug up the time with that, but just thank you so much for sharing. And another quick shout out, Jonathan. Are you still in the 100 Devs program? Like, are you still going through the courses?
Yes, I am still going through the courses.
Okay, huge kudos to you, because if I was in your position, I never would have had the guts to join a cohort group until I had finished 100 devs. So the fact that you stepped in and, you know, you've been contributing as much as you have, just, you know, huge shout out to you, man. Like that takes balls. So yeah, really happy
Thank
to hear
you.
you're doing so well.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, other than that, like, did anybody else have any other questions for Group 4 and their MVP? Going once, going twice. Okay, well, Group 4, guys, thank you so much for the phenomenal presentation and just like how well organized it was. And yeah, look forward to speaking with you guys soon about a potential collaboration. But with that being said, I believe I was informed that Group 5 would not be able to make it tonight, unfortunately. So we will be moving to Group 6. Group 6, were you guys ready to present?
Yes, indeed, I believe so. Mr. Damien, are you ready, sir?
Yeah, let me share real quick.
Nice, nice. And while he's getting set up, I just want to say that one of the things working with this group, first as a team lead, was the communication was spot on. Like, I go to sleep because I will be going to sleep after this for sure, because I wake up usually at 3 or 4. So I mean, I wake up to these Discord chats and it's just crazy. And I mean, I'm like, I'll ask a question. I'm like, okay, no one said nothing. And next, you know, it's just like, just, just going at it. And so I definitely want to applaud them for their communication, because that definitely helped. Especially Rob too. He was like the secret ninja. He would like kind of come in and out and just be like with the sage advice and the timely like fixes and stuff. So that was definitely a great contribution to the team. So I appreciate Rob as well. Damien, please go for it, sir.
Okay, so this is Team 6. We have Rob, Curtis, Reed, and myself, with David as our team lead. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Oh, I can't. How do you move the bar? I can't really read the top. Okay. Okay. So our application is Evently. It is an event management application. Our goal for the cohort was just to create a solid MVP. The core features that we achieved are for users to create an account. When they log in, they can create events, and then they can view those events in a list. And then what we then wanted is to click on like a see more, and then it would give, you'd be able to view the event details. We did build out, you can see at the bottom here of the screen, we have the view event details kind of built out on the front end, but we haven't connected it through the backend. I think the backend is actually built out too, but we kind of ran out of time to like connect them, and we didn't really want to break anything. So for now, it just has dummy data going through it. Okay, so for our stacks on the front end, we have React, TypeScript, Chakra UI, and Redux. Going with the stack allowed us for rapid development and maintainability and a polished user experience. For React and Chakra UI, combination of efficient UI development. It allowed us to really quickly develop our components and get that UI built out. TypeScript for strong typing and code quality, and Redux for state management capabilities. For the backend, we have Java, Spring Boot, Postgres, and we have some Docker. So for seamless development, deployment, and maintenance of the application, for Java and Spring Boot, we wanted to leverage a robust and scalable backend. So if we wanted to build on it more, we could do so. Plus our backend devs were familiar with Java, although I think Rob is also familiar with Node. And then for our database, we have Postgres, and then we have Docker to ensure containerized deployment and easy management. Some of the dev tools that we used, obviously we use GitHub for version control. We use Trello to facilitate project management and task tracking. We used Figma for collaborative design. And we use Docker for everyone to kind of run the backend tools and kind of see the application and test it out. Our backend guys also use a platform called Lucid for their wireframe and design of the backend. Okay, steps for development on the front end. So we started with our designs, our wireframes in Figma. We were able to collaborate together to do the mobile, the desktop, and all that. Then we built out the front-end UI with Chakra UI components. Chakra made it really easy to not worry so much about styling, but kind of building out the designs that we went with in Figma. Curtis built out the Redux store. And then we used mock service worker, which allowed us to test before our backend was even connected. And because I don't think it was connected till like the very end. So we were able to use that to get some testing into our components that we built out. Development steps for the backend. So created entities for users and events. We created controllers with REST APIs, created services for user registration, user login, password encryption, and event creation. Created the data access object files for database interaction. Created data transfer object files for transferring data from the backend to the front end. We created CORS filter to prevent CORS errors, although we still had some till last night. I think Rob hacked those out. And like I said, we used Docker and Postgres. Some of the challenges that we had, at least for me in the front end, we utilized some new technologies. Curtis and myself had never used Chakra UI. So we had to quickly adapt. We went through tutorials, documentation, and honestly, a lot of trial and error. And then after we kind of got a feel for it, it was pretty easy to kind of get the components up and going. Getting the data formatted properly to communicate with the front end and back end. And also due to time constraints and some of our members were leaving as well, we were unable to integrate all the API calls into the Redux async thunks. And as I mentioned before, we had the CORS issues, which we managed to hash out. And just to ensure that like the application didn't break or anything, we went ahead and just did a recording of it where Rob went through and the whole demo. If I play the demo on a video, will the audio come through?
I'm not sure. Maybe Scott could answer that because I don't have a ton of experience with Zoom management.
Okay. I mean, I can try. You can like let me know if you.
What was the question?
We have our demo on a video. If it was to be played, would the audio go through for everyone on Zoom or no?
It's a great question, and I don't know the answer to it, and I apologize.
Okay, well, we'll give it a shot. Let me know if you can hear it or not.
But before you screen share, there's like a checkbox setting to share audio with it as well.
Okay,
There's
let me.
check. So you might have to unshare your screen, and then when you click into it, there should be a little option. I was a band director during COVID, so I shared audio all the time. It was wonderful.
Nice. Oh, I see. Share sound. I gotcha. Okay. Let me know if it works or not.
All right. I'm here to show you our cohorts project. So we did the events app. So we'll go ahead and get started with what it can do. The first thing we can do is create an account. So I'll say my test, and then we'll give it a password. Normally this would be hidden, but we left it not hidden so we can see the password. Just make sure we had it right for development. And then do that, sign up. We get the green banner that says that we've signed up. Now we can log in with that account. And we are logged in. And now we can go view the events, right? So we have some events that have already been tested here. And I'm going to go ahead and create another event. Test event. And we'll say description. We'll leave the price at 7. We'll do August 31st. And let's do 8 p.m. Give it an address, 123 street address. And then city is, we'll do Dallas, Texas. Give it a zip code and we'll create the event. So we see that the event's been created. We can go back to our list page and we can see our test event right here with all the details we added. So this is the feature that worked end to end for us, or the features that we've done that have worked end to end. So this is sign up, login, create event, and list events. We had some more stuff that was done, but we haven't gotten it working end to end yet. So for example, we have events attending. This is the front end using dummy data, but we also had a bunch of backend code written for this as well. The two just haven't been tied together. With a few more days, we probably would have gotten this done. And then we had one other small thing we wanted to do, which was create a view event page where you could have gone and selected that you wanted to attend an event. And again, the ability to select an event and attend it is largely done in the back end. We have the join tables for it and everything like that. It's just that we just ran out of time getting all that tied together. So that's the gist of our project. That's it.
Yeah. So that's it.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I wasn't sure if you had any like closing notes after that, Damien.
Not really. I think we did, looking back at it, I think we did the best that we could with some of our team members had left as well. And then I think the members who were here also had time constraints. I think we're all very busy people. So I'm very proud of the work that we were able to accomplish. And like David said, the Discord messages were going early and late. I know that I talked to Curtis on like direct messages a little bit, and we talked early and late as well. So the communication was awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, thank you so much, just for like opening and like sharing all that. And then also, for David, just for like leading. And like one of the key highlights that I was like writing notes down about is like, you guys also had like constant collaboration, which is really great to hear about, because you don't want it to be like a dead channel or anything like that. So yeah, just congratulations on, being able to maintain that for the most part. And then, was really excited to see Docker on the tech stack list as usual. For the containerization aspect, was it just like merging both the front end and back end into one container package in your guys' case, so that you could just like click one button, like have it run together?
I can answer that question.
Yeah.
The reason that we use Docker on this was convenience for our cohort. So a lot of people have Node on their machines, but a lot of people don't have Java, and they don't. It's a kind of a pain to get people set up with Java.
Yeah.
They had to figure out how to install it and then get the path set up and everything like that. And on top of that, we had Postgres, and so they would have to figure out how to configure Postgres and then apply environment variables and all these things, right? Docker made it really easy just to make it where you install Docker and then you create the containers. That way, if I'm a front-end person, I don't really care about putting Java on my machine or Postgres. I can just spin up the containers for local development. It's a real win for that. There was some pain points with Docker, some like Windows-specific issues that one of our teammates had and things like that. It was actually funny because like Docker is supposed to solve the problem of it, like it runs on my machine problem, right? But we actually had like Docker's the Docker container runs on my machine. I don't know why it's not working for you, sort of problem, which is kind of funny, but yeah, we use Docker for that specific use case, mainly local development.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much for like, picking that apart, Rob. Like, I got to give you a shout out because you mentored me a ton on like containerization, Kubernetes. So I owe a lot to you, and thank you so much. And yeah, like I think that's a great point you mentioned. It's just like establishing local environments, so you're not forcing every one of your developers to install a tech stack that they're not otherwise going to use. So that's why like keep trying to pitch some of these like CI/CD technologies because it's a huge boon. And then also. I wanted to point out, like, Damien, you mentioned like you and Curtis were like both learning Chakra UI, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, how did you go about doing that? You said like it's like you're making like a tutorials for yourself, or was it just like reading a bunch of documentation, like experimenting?
Yeah, we went through a tutorial online by the Net Ninja. That was pretty cool. And then I read through some documentation after trying to build some stuff, and it wasn't working and adapting like I thought. So I really had to dig deep, and I showed Curtis a lot of stuff. I would send it to him and be like, "Hey, man, like this isn't working the way I thought," and he would just find, because they provide components that are already built out. He's like, "Here, check this out," and then I would go in and kind of configure that and try to get that to work.
Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, and that's amazing. Like the reason I wanted to ask further about that is just to share about like a little bit of personal experience. And I learned this from like the 100 Devs course, if any of you guys are familiar with it. But being able to create like a PowerPoint or a tutorial on something that you're learning for the first time, I think it really helps you stand out in terms of like portfolio content, whether on your GitHub or just like your own personal website. And I honestly think that's one of the things that I did for like CI/CD technologies that I had very minimal experience learning. When I created like the tutorial and I was pitching it during my interview, I think that's one of the key things that helped me land my positions. So for any like job seekers that are out there, being able to do that with like new tech stacks that you're picking up, I think is like a huge note. So just wanted to toss that out there if that's something you feel is up your alley.
Yeah, I agree. I did the MVC thing as well.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're also in the group. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, but for this one, I think it was really just kind of getting my hands dirty, fingers on the keyboard, just kind of practicing and building it out and messing up a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I can relate.
So,
and
yeah.
Curtis wasn't able to make it tonight either.
No, yeah, it's just me and Rob and David.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, yeah, thank you for just spearheading the presentation for both you and David. Really phenomenal job with you guys. And yeah, just I think. Any questions for Group 6 from any of you guys? Okay, going once, going twice. I feel like an auctioneer lead. Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Thank you guys again for presenting. And just I wasn't sure. Like, wait. Scott, did you want to close out? Because I'm getting nervous here. I don't know what to do as like the signature.
I think there's a question in the chat.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Thank you so much. Yeah. Damien, I think Jesus asked one.
Yeah, it's did you guys use dev containers? I'm gonna say no. I haven't used dev containers before, so I'm not super familiar with the concept, but from what I understand, it's specifically to help like set up like some kind of development environment. So what we use the Docker containers for was for local development. So if this is a dev container I'm describing, then let me know, but I don't think it is. We just used it to where we could set up our tools through Docker that we would launch our app right through Docker or launch our database through Docker. And again, it gave us the flexibility to where if we decided in the middle of the cohort that we're not going to use Postgres, we're going to use Cassandra or MySQL or Mongo or whatever. No one has to go reconfigure those tools. They spin up a different container. So that's their extent for our containers. I think that's different than the dev container concept, though. Correct me if I'm wrong, though.
I had a question.
Yes,
I just
please.
thought of one. So I know because you guys use Docker in a way to like provide tools that people didn't want to necessarily like install and whatnot. Would you say using like a collaboration IDE would have been a better choice than doing it, or would you still go with like the whole Docker way instead?
I actually don't know a ton about a collaboration IDE. Can you give me an example of one of those? Like
the only one I could really think of off the top of my head would probably be like AWS Cloud9.
Cloud9, okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely look into that. I'm not familiar with it. Are there fees associated with that sort of thing?
I know AWS lets you create like a free tier account. So the first year of creation, you have access to all like their free stuff, and I believe it's a part of their free tier.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'll check that out. I'm not sure if that would have been better or not. I do know that Docker. I mean, it solved most of our problems. It's pretty simple. But yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I'm sure there's other tools to get people on board to make it. It sounds like that will give you a development environment that syncs it across the team, right? Which could be a big win. I'm curious about that as well. Is there? So are you using like a remote computer, right? Like you're shelling into a computer somewhere else?
I believe you have the option to either SSH in through like your own local, or you can just use the web browser and just code online.
I see. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I'll look into that and see what those trade-offs are. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out.
Right. Yeah. And thank you for the question, Eugene. Any other questions before we wrap up with group 6? Checking chat, checking raised hands. Okay. Looks like we are all set then. But yeah, once again, thank you guys for presenting, and just, overall, great job to every one of you guys. There were a lot of challenges mentioned that you guys had to struggle and overcome, but just the fact that, you're here and you've been able to present like an MVP, just give yourselves a pat on the back, because that's phenomenal. And over like the period of 5 weeks, it's been like, I imagine like there's a lot of work and planning to go in. You're going to see like unforeseen consequences and challenges, but you guys definitely soldiered on. So congratulations on making it this far, and hopefully this allows you, like, for like the people who are looking for roles, so, hopefully gives you like a really nice signature mark on your resume that you can really pitch to potential companies with open roles. And with that said, Scott, did you want to say anything to like close us out?
No, yeah, I would say each cohort kind of has like this kind of a main characteristic or theme, and I would say that the perseverance for this one is just phenomenal. Like, I know not only our team, but multiple teams had a bunch of people who kind of like had to work around some stuff, whether that was like schedule or just really busy or working through some challenges. So great job on everyone to make it through the end.